The first thing you want to do is called a site evaluation. Basically what that means is you want to go to the area where you're going to be constructing your slab and look at what obstacles might be in the way of that construction. Now on this site we have some elevation issues we need to deal with. This side of the slab over here is about 2 feet higher than the far corner. So when we do our excavation, we're going to make sure that we can level this out without creating any drainage issues for the slab. So on this side where we have a fairly significant cut, we'll want to slope that back, make sure we're either draining around the slab or placing some type of curtain drain in that area to handle any water that may come down. Other items that you want to look out for are trees. In this case we had a small oak tree here that we've cut out. I left it about 1 foot tall so I can wrap a chain and pull it out so that I get the root structure out. You can't have any roots or organic material below your slab, so you want to make sure that you pull that out ahead of time. Obstacles such as debris, if you have some heavy machinery you can move that right out of here with no problem. Another issue we have on this side is we have a structure behind here. Now there's a couple issues we need to be aware of here. One is that the gutters are currently drained down and empty out back into this area here. So that's going to be an issue of drainage that we'll have to handle either by diverting that around the structure or by creating some type of catchment system prior to where we place our new slab that can handle that water. When we look at where this slab is going to go, I know that I want to orient my long wall to the south, so I've used a compass to find south, and then I've looked at trees in the area to see how that's going to block the sun. That gives me a really specific idea of where I want to place my slab. Also, I'm taking into consideration how the placement of this slab and the structure that is built upon it is going to affect the structure behind us in terms of shading, creating cold spots, and creating little wind tunnels that just collect debris. Finally, one of the things that I do when I've got my general idea of where I want to have the layout is I get some large balloons and some string, place them in the corners that I think I'm going to want to use for the home, and put them up to the right heights for plate and then some up for the roof height. That way I can stand back at this other building and some of the other windows, look outside and see how it's going to obstruct any lines of sight. And it's a lot easier to move balloons than it is to move a concrete slab. The first thing you want to do is bring in a backhoe or a skip loader and scrape off any organic material or topsoil from the area where the slab will be poured. Topsoil and organic materials don't make a solid base for construction because they have a tendency to compact under the weight of the concrete. So whether you have to take the slab down or not, it's important that you remove this material. One thing you might want to do is stockpile the dirt off to the side because it makes for a good backfill when you're done with the construction of the building. Now with all the topsoil removed, you can start to create your actual grade for the slab. So if you've picked a low corner that you want to work back from, you want to grade all of the material out to match that corner. Now again, we had some issues here with drainage from the slope coming down, so we're going to try to feather that in as we're creating the slab area. Drainage is a really important issue when you get into foundations and slabs because if you have water draining directly under the slab, you can actually swell those soils and get some uplift and create cracking in your slab. So be sure to concentrate on that as you're creating your grade. Now we're going to actually cut this down a little bit lower than we need to go and build some areas back up with some compacted stone. So the excavator is aware of that, and we'll have to check our grades as we go along here and make sure that we're staying within our tolerances for what our final goal is. There are a number of ways to check grade. You can use a water level, you can use a carpenter's level, which is similar to a theodolite or scope with a stadia rod. In this case we're using a laser level. I've got a receiver attached to my stadia rod that when it intercepts the signal sent out by the transmitter, beeps to let me know if I need to bring grade up or bring grade down. So I can walk to the corners and check the different grades and know where I need to go from there. Our rough grade is still a bit high, so we're going to continue working it with the skip loader until we get closer to our target. Now we'll want to continue to check points in the field as we do this so we don't overcut and end up too deep on our finished grade. It's pretty much impossible to get a perfect level grade here, so we'll get as close as we can, and then we'll come in with some compacted gravel to clean up any irregularities in the grade itself. Now we've put about 3 to 4 inches of 3/4 inch minus gravel down in what's called a lift. We may want to do up to 6 inches of gravel underneath this foundation, but we don't want to put that all down at once because the compactor will not be able to get full compaction on that. We're using a plate compactor which has good compaction rates but can only compact about 3 to 4 inches at a time. So make sure however much gravel you need to put down that you do it in lifts. Now this is a pretty monotonous job to just walk in circles and compact this gravel. One way you can avoid this so you can have free hands to work on other aspects of the job is to drive a 3-foot concrete stake in the middle of the slab area and use a large diameter rope to attach to the plate compactor cage and back to the tether point of the concrete stake. By the nature of the compaction and the way the plate compactor works, it moves itself forward slowly as it compacts. So if you have it tethered to the center point, it'll actually slowly work its way around in a circle and wrap itself into the center. Then you can go back by hand and square out the corners and finish up the very center spot once you've pulled that stake. This allows you to work freely on the site on other aspects of things you might want to do rather than being stuck behind a machine the whole time. It's important to go and overlap the last area that you compacted by about 6 inches so you don't end up with areas of separated compaction. So just set the plate compactor over where you just went and then slightly onto the new gravel, and you'll get good compaction. This is a pretty important spot that you want to spend some good time on. You don't want to just quickly buzz over the compaction because you'll end up with cracks in your foundation that there's nothing you can do about later. So what I do is I'll go slowly in one direction, and then I'll actually turn around and come back and go the other direction, or perhaps go across or diagonally to make sure that I've got it fully compacted before I prepare my pour.